Hey there, it's CJ Willie and I'm cracking a pack. Today is pack number 17 of my science project of cracking a 1990 top Cello box. Check out my preview video for the explanation on how this science project will test the theory to see if I can build a complete set from a Cello box. I've added the link to my 1990 top Cello box preview video in the description below. With all the packs that I'm going to crack, I will share my thoughts and memories about some of the players or cards. After I've cracked the pack, I'm going to choose the best card of the pack. That doesn't mean it has to be a rookie, superstar, or even a Hall of Famer. It can literally be a goofy photo, something interesting about the player, or maybe some memory I had of the player from back in the day. All right, let's get to cracking. We are on pack number 17. Okay, still looking for, I think just Larry Walker is the only Chase rookie that we're still looking for. Gum's been sliding out nice and easy, makes it nice, doesn't do any damage to the cards. Okay, first card is Calvin Schiraldi. He came up with the Mets and then was traded to the Red Sox mid-season in 1986. So funny that the Mets and Red Sox faced each other in 1986. Going from the Mets to the Red Sox didn't pan out because the Mets won the World Series. He was supposed to be, the next big stopper or closer. Didn't really happen for him. Here he's pictured with the Padres. Ken Anderson came up as a backup utility infielder. Spent 2 or 3 years with the Angels, and that was about it. Gary Redus originally came up, I believe, with the Reds, Pirates, and a couple other teams. Mainly a backup outfielder, pinch hitter. Sparky Anderson, Hall of Fame manager with the Tigers, won World Series championships with the Reds in the 70s, was at the helm of the Big Red Machine, and then won a World Series with the Tigers. Cal Ripken Jr. All-Star card. What else to say about a Hall of Famer, Cal Ripken? I have many memories of Cal Ripken. Obviously, when he broke Lou Gehrig's consecutive game streak, homering in his final All-Star game. But I actually remember Cal Ripken in 1983, young Cal Ripken Jr., as the Orioles beat the White Sox in the World Series. Hall of Famer Jim Rice, so 3 Hall of Famers in a row. Jim Rice to me is a very, very, very borderline Hall of Famer. If Jim Rice is in, Dale Murphy should be in, Don Mattingly should be in, Dwight Evans. Rice was consistent though, hit for high average, over 300 career home runs, was an RBI guy. Bill Long, didn't spend much time in the major leagues, mainly middle innings reliever. Jeff Musselman, that seems to be like an airbrushed photo. I think Musselman was with the Blue Jays and then traded to the Mets, or it may have been he came out the Mets, traded to the Blue Jays. Let's check out the back here. Nope, Blue Jays and then Mets. He spent enough time with the Mets in the later part of the year. I'm not sure why the photoshopped card. Bob Walk. What's interesting about him is that in 1980, he was a rookie and he was part of the Phillies World Series team. I started with them, then disappeared for a while, and eventually came back as a starting pitcher with Pirates. Jim Leyland, manager with Pirates. He spent quite a number of years with them. He was instrumental in their playoff run from the late 80s into the early 90s. Never could get a World Series victory. He went on to manage the Tigers and took them to a couple of World Series. But I might be mistaken, but I don't think he ever won a World Series as a manager. Will Clark, All-Star card. My memory of Will Clark, I remember him in his very first Major League at-bat taking Nolan Ryan deep. So homering his first at-bat and doing so off of a really difficult pitcher, Nolan Ryan. Herm Winningham spent a number of years with the Reds, Cubs, mainly backup outfielder. Lance Johnson, he came up as a rookie with the Cardinals in 1987. Then he was part of a trade that sent him to the White Sox, and the Cardinals got Jose De Leon. He had a number of productive years as a leadoff hitter with the White Sox. He was a prototypical whitey ball St. Louis Cardinal prospect. Speed, defense, get on base. Next card is Stan Belinda. He came out with the Pirates and was mainly a setup guy. He did get a few saves, but spent the majority of his career just as a middle inning setup guy. Rob Murphy spent a number of years with the Reds, the Red Sox, another team that I can't remember off the top of my head. Left-handed reliever, to get the lefty. Okay, let's get ourselves from the company store some pages. Flip the cards around. Dan Pasqua came up with the Yankees, had a ton of promise. He was going to be like the next power hitting outfielder. Didn't really pan out. He could hit for power, but just couldn't hit for average. Wasn't the greatest fielder, so spent a lot of time, at DH. Greg Minton, he was a middle innings guy for a number of years. In fact, I think he grabbed a few saves here or there. Giants, Angels, I don't recall any other teams he was on. Looks like just the Giants and Angels, but if you see his back, debuted in 75 all the way through 89. Career ERA of 3.11, around 150 saves, over 500 records, so not that bad of a pitcher. Greg Briley, he gets the Topps Gold Cup. Yeah, he came out at the same time as Ken Griffey Jr., but Ken Griffey Jr. was obviously a better player, and I don't recall how much longer Briley lasted in the major leagues. Joe Price was a starter for a number of years with the Giants and the Padres. Later on in his career, became more of a lefty reliever. Dave Dravecky, he came up with the Padres, then Giants. He unfortunately had cancer, and I believe it was in his pitching arm. I remember he took some time off, and my memory of him was the horrific scene of him pitching, and right in mid-pitch, his pitching arm just snapping, just gruesome. He eventually, I believe, lost the arm. Steve Wilson, lefty reliever with the Cubs. Candy Maldonado, he came up with the Dodgers, spent a number of years with them, and then moved across town to the Giants. Never really entrenched himself as a starting outfielder. He was more of a platoon guy. He could mash lefties for sure. Ken Williams, he's more noted for being the general manager for a number of years with the White Sox. I still think he's part of the White Sox organization. Maybe he's their president of baseball operations. He came up with a ton of promise as an outfielder, just never took hold. Jeff King, early photo of him, he came up with the Pirates, was their starting for third baseman for a number of years, after which he went to the Royals and was their starting third baseman. Pretty solid pro. Alan Trammell, Hall of Famer. This is a Hall of Famer pack for sure. I always thought Alan Trammell should have been a Hall of Famer. He never got a lot of credit due. He was kind of the first generation of that power-hitting shortstop. Unfortunately, he started around the same time as Cal Ripken Jr. Cal had a lot more notoriety than Alan Trammell did. But Alan Trammell was a great defensive shortstop and a great offensive. And when he ended his career, it was right as like the Derek Jeters, the Alex Rodriguez's, Nomar Garcia Parras had started. And so he, I think, got overshadowed because he didn't have as much of the offensive output as those other players, but definitely was a Hall of Famer. Jay Howell was a reliever for the Dodgers, Yankees. Was a closer for a little bit of time, but mainly was kind of a setup guy. Ken Caminiti. Here's a guy that was a great hitter, clubhouse leader. Spent a number of years with the Astros and the Padres. Unfortunately, got involved in the whole steroid mess and really wrecked his career. A couple of memories I have of him. One, they were playing in the Mexico series. It was the Padres and the Astros, I think, and he was completely dehydrated. I think they were playing a doubleheader or something like that. He had to get IVs in the dugout, and as soon as he got done with the IV, he went out and hit a home run. And maybe those IVs were laced with steroids. Who knows? Rob Deere. Rob Deere is the prototypical hit the ball a country mile, strike out a ton, and hit for a low average. He stuck around baseball because he could hit 30 plus home runs, but he would strike out a ton and hit for a low average. As you can see, led the league in strikeouts. You know, if he hit 225 to 250, that was something else. Nowadays, that's not that big of a deal. Players hit a lot of home runs and they strike out. But back in the day, Rob Deere was not, you know, an all-star type player because he struck out, had struggles with contact. Bobby Bonilla, part of the great early Pirates team with Barry Bonds, Jim Leland, and that group, Sid Bream, Doug Drabek. After playing with the Pirates, he moved on to the Mets. And then once he was done with the Mets, a variety of other teams till he ended his career. He's still getting paid today. Smart player, signed a contract where he'd have deferred payments. And I think he's paid somewhere around $1 million or $2 million a year, even after he retired, I think in 2001 or 2002. Last couple of cards, Terry Kennedy came up as a Cardinals prospect, went to the Padres and then on to the Giants. I think maybe the Orioles as well. Left-handed hitting catcher. And our final card is Randy St. Clair, basically a middle innings guy with the Twins. Okay, so best card or favorite card out of the pack. I am going to go with, I mean, there's a lot of easy players to choose from. Obviously a number of Hall of Famers. I'm going to go with Will Clark. Will Clark burst onto the scene in 1987. As I said, his first at bat, hit a home run off of Nolan Ryan. He was a guy that could hit for average, could hit for power. My favorite memory of Will Clark is in 2001. No, not 2001, 2000. He's playing with the Orioles. Mark McGwire gets injured halfway through the year with the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are on a playoff run. It's their first time that they're going to appear in the playoffs since 1996. So they trade for Will Clark down the stretch. They traded a backup first baseman, Critch Richard, who was a little bit of a prospect to the Orioles. They pick up Will Clark. He goes on to have a phenomenal last 2 months of the season, helps the Cardinals clinch the playoff, has a relatively decent, playoff run. They don't quite make it to the World Series, but Will Clark was one of my favorite players growing up, even though he played with the Giants and the Orioles and the Rangers. When he was able to spend the last couple of months with the Cardinals, that was just phenomenal for me. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like it, please subscribe and share. Take some time in the comment section to tell me out of this pack what you thought was the best card or your favorite card. Until next time when I crack pack number 18 from my 1990 Top Cello box, remember, this is for science.